Canada's economy just tanked 0.3% in October, the worst month over the past 3 years. And of course, no one is blaming Mark Carney. My name is Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. 0.3%, man. Our economy is shrinking while the US, as you will see, is not doing too bad. And guess what? They're not blaming Mr. Carney. Obviously, it's not his fault, right? It's never his fault. It's never Mark Carney's fault.
Sure. Who are they blaming? Trump?
You want to know who they're blaming? You know, I make sure
Trump?
You will see. Before we get into that, because I always going to find videos from mainstream media in order to show who they're blaming for the problems that have been created by 10 years of liberal policies. But before we do, let's talk numbers. Let's just talk a few numbers because Reuters provided a good article. It's one of the first ones I got out today, depicting the picture here because it's not good, right? I have a reminder for the people out there. Remember the graph that we kept on showing about when Trudeau got into power and how we compared to the US when it comes to GDP? Well, I got it again. So here's Reuters telling us that the Canadian economy posed big October drop, partial recovery seen in November. So they're predicting what the numbers that we're going to see next month. But they are saying here that they were expecting a 0.2 to continue in October, but unfortunately it was a 0.3. Okay. Here is what you'll see. The video that I have to show afterwards is going to speak about, but they're saying that the manufacturing sector dropped by 1.5%, partially reflecting a 6.9% plunge in machinery output. Wood products manufacturing dropped 7.3%, the largest decline since April 2020, following the additional U.S. tariff introduced on October 14th. To give you an example, 0.02% is the biggest drop we've seen since December 2022. We're talking about the tail end of the pandemic, same. But worse numbers in 3 years, and we were supposed to have a brilliant economist banker at the head of Canada that would be able to deal with the tariffs, that would be able to make the deals that we need in order to grow our economy, yet 0.2 loss just in October. And I went to get the numbers that are estimated to come out for this quarter, because now we're at the end of the quarter. Let's be honest, the biggest week in the year is not between the 23rd and the 31st. Let's be real here. So I got the numbers for that, and I wanted to show people how it compared to the US. But before we do that, I want to show you a video from Bloomberg. So BNN Bloomberg, we're not talking CTV here. We're not talking CBC. We're talking, sure, leftist media, but not CBC, right? They're not as bad as CBC, but I just want to show you the first 2 minutes of this video to give you an idea of what's being told out there. And you'll see that the host has a guest, and even the guest is like kind of not answering the question. Like he's doing everything possible not to blame Carney. That's basically what you'll see. But here's the video. Here is BNN Bloomberg on Canada's GDP shrinking 0.3% in October.
Canada's GDP fell 0.3% in October, which more than offset September's gain of 0.2%. My next guest says, despite likely dodging a recession, the Canadian economy still does face some headwinds. Let's go to LJ Valencia, economist at Desjardins. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So manufacturing was up in September, but down in October. Any obvious reason for the month-to-month change?
Tariffs.
Well, one thing that stands out with today's numbers is that machinery manufacturing has gone down quite significantly after helping contribute to the manufacturing strength in September. But another sort of interesting tidbit of information we can glean with today's data is that wood manufacturing fell, likely due to the tariffs that were introduced on wood products during the month.
Did you notice that he did not answer the question? She
Yeah,
asked
yeah, he
him
didn't.
about the output for machinery. Oh,
It's all
wood production
products.
has gone down.
Yeah.
Brother, that's not the
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Just for the people out there, for the listeners, the manufacturing sector dropped by 1.5%,
Wow.
partially reflecting a 6.9% plunge in machinery output. So we're not talking about something small here. We're talking about a massive drop of almost 7%. And I don't know, but it's the wood tariffs. That's the problem.
That's crazy. Does he keep going?
Oh yeah, of course. It's just I had to stop to highlight this because he did not answer the question.
So those are really two interesting informations that we can glean from on the manufacturing side, especially.
Okay, so the tariffs for cabinetry and furniture, those are the kind of things that were hit and that showed up in the October data.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's really a defining factor
cabinetry.
That's caused some of the weakness that we've seen in the wood manufacturing subset.
But see how even the host that gleamed over the manufacturing, like the actual machinery, like I don't know. Okay, that's good. You didn't answer the question. I'm not gonna ask it again, but it's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. Let's talk about the wood
sector.
Is there anything more that we've seen in the numbers that are directly affected by tariffs for the month of October?
See how they're fit right away.
Yeah.
Do we see? Is there anything else that we could blame on tariffs, sir? Please, just tell us.
What's he saying? What's his answer?
Well, I suppose there's a lot of sort of one-off things that we've seen in today's monthly GDP data that kind of makes it difficult to say whether or not, there's a lot of trade impacts the trade war is sort of influencing some of these sub-industries. Say, for example, if you look at transportation warehousing, there was a lot of weakness there because of the recent postal worker strike. And if you look at, say, for example, on the public sector for services, the Alberta teacher strike had an impact on the numbers there.
So it's Trump's fault with the tariffs. It's Alberta's fault because of the teacher strike, and it's Canada Post's fault that we lost so much in October. Those are the three reasons he provided up to now. I want to let it go for like another 30 seconds or so because he's gonna try, but he's not gonna find much.
But if you do look, say, for example, in retail trade, it has fallen for the second consecutive month, and also wholesale trade, which has fallen for the second time in 3 months.
Okay, so retail, sorry to interrupt you, retail trade, I guess, would be one affected by tariffs, then that would explain why the numbers are down?
I suppose, but one thing to keep in mind is that one data point isn't necessarily...
He is, and he goes on and on and on and on the whole 2.5 rest of the video, which I'm not going to put you guys through it. We don't need, we get the idea, right? The idea is that it's everybody's fault, Alberta's fault, it's Trump's fault, it is also the fault of everybody except Carney. Carney cannot be mentioned in here, and Trudeau, 10 years of Trudeau policies cannot be identified as problematic either. So this is the reality that we're seeing right now. I could not find Mark Carney addressing this, and I don't see him addressing it at all. Like, I don't see him ever mentioning this, especially not that he can wait till the new year. Everybody's on vacation, and it's just going to go away by itself. But here's the reality. So I went... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm just making excuses. It's all about excuses, man.
Automobile. Did they mention automobiles in that? Is that included in the manufacturing number? The big 6% drop?
It doesn't seem to be the biggest problem is manufacturing. Because, if it was cars, they would have mentioned it. But it doesn't seem to be the biggest problem identified here. But here is where things get interesting. So I saw this today, and once again, guys, this is just a freshly reminder of I don't like mainstream media. I don't trust them, but I can say the same from any type of media out there. I don't care that they tend to be accurate. When they're wrong, and you need to prove it. So here is a post that I saw by We're Canada Proud, which is one of the biggest platforms in Canada when it comes to political news. So they're saying 0.4% growth GDP. They're referring to basically the month of October, what we were just talking about. And then they're talking about 4.3% on the US side. This is not accurate. Just so you guys know, this is not. They're trying to make it sound like during the month of October, we lost about 0.4%. And somehow the US made 4.3%. That's not accurate. As much as I would love it to be true, it is not accurate. So here are the numbers. And let me just tell you that the US doesn't calculate their GDP annualized on a monthly base. They just do it on quarterly. I couldn't find the data on a monthly base, but if you look at the third quarter of 2025 on a annualized rate growth, the US got 4.3% growth. So that is probably what they were showing there, was the third quarter of 2025. And because the numbers are not quite out yet, since we're not done the fourth quarter, but the estimations out there is that the American will have grown 3.0% GDP. So their economy has grown in the past 2 quarters, so in the past 6 months. Like I said, I couldn't find the numbers. They don't tabulate it on a monthly base like we do here. But if we compare the third quarter of the US at 4.3%, Canada's annualized growth, GDP growth, was 2.6% in the third quarter. But in the fourth quarter, RBC's estimating that Canada's economy will have grown 0.5%. TD calls for 0%, so no growth whatsoever. And BNN Bloomberg, that we just saw a portion of their videos, are predicting a 0.5%. So if we take the number that's in the middle, you're looking at a 0% growth in the fourth quarter, in the Canadian fourth quarter, when it comes to GDP. So we had a 2.6 growth in the third quarter, while the American got a 4.3. The Americans are predicting a 3.0 growth in the fourth quarter, while we get a 0. And chances are that that's going to be in the negative, because they were estimating a 0.2% reduction in October, and they got over a 3, like a 0.3. But I want to show people something, because you and I have spoken about this heavily during the election, as in this is something that Pierre Poilievre should be talking about, hammering day in, day out. And it is this nice little
chart.
GDP chart that shows that Canada was head-to-head with the US until Trudeau got in power. And guys, the last 5 years under Trudeau, since 2020, and you can see that massive dip there is similar to the US, and that's COVID, obviously. But we never, look the difference between the US and Canada.
We never
and those are
recovered.
the years that Mark Carney was the financial advisor to Justin Trudeau. So let's not forget this. So in 10 years, Canada got something equivalent to a 1% growth GDP per capita, while the US was somewhere around 19 to 20%. Now we're seeing a potential growth of 2.6% in 6 months, compared to a 7.3 in the US. So the problem has not been addressed, and yet they're still blaming Trump for this instead of blaming their own policies. They're blaming Alberta for this instead of blaming their own policies, and they're blaming Canada Post instead of blaming their own policies.
And it's ridiculous. It's none of those reasons. You got to zoom out. It's big picture reasons. It's structural reasons. It's macro reasons. And fundamentally, because people are going to talk about this and make all kinds of excuses and debate this and that and things like the interest rate environment and tariffs and blah, blah, blah. Fundamentally, the reason Canada is in the position it's in is because the Liberal Party, as a fundamental belief, they believe it is not just bad policy to extract our natural resources, but they believe it's immoral to extract our natural resources. They won't say that, but you know that it's true. They fundamentally believe it. They'll wrap it up in economic terms and blah blah blah, this and that, and the timing isn't right, or think of the the risk or the pollution or the environment or the climate or whatever the fuck. The fact of the matter is they just will not extract our natural resources. And that is the only card that we have to play. We were coasting, we were able to coast on the US's coattails for a little while, but no longer. We cannot do that any longer.
No.
We need to do a massive investment in extracting our natural resources of the type that Mark Carney and the Liberal Party as a whole are just ideologically not capable of doing. They will not ever do it on an ideological level.
No, and it doesn't matter that we're talking oil and gas, that we're talking minerals, that we're talking wood.
Yep.
They do not want to extract our natural resources, yet it could make us one of the richest countries in the world. Like we have more oil than Saudi Arabia, and it's right here, but we would rather buy oil from Saudi Arabia than extract our own. We are
Crazy.
Literally in the boat that we're in because of liberal policies. Plain and simple. Is Trump taking advantage of this? Abso-fucking-lutely. We would do the same if we could take advantage of the US, but the only reason that he's able to take advantage of this is because of 10 years of liberal policies that have preventing us from extracting our own natural resources. This is plain and simple.
It reminds me of something the food professor, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, said last night. It was actually pretty insightful. Remember, he said something like, Trump probably doesn't actually give a shit about supply management or the dairy cartel. It's only $15 billion, drop of the bucket.
16.2, yeah.
Yeah, but he knows that it's a fault line in Canada. He knows it's a divisive topic, and he knows if he sticks pokes a stick in there and moves it around, it'll crack open society, or that's the intention. He's trying to create division because America is in competition with Canada. Every country is competing against every other country economically. That's just the way it works. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think the same thing is happening here. He's smart enough to know that this is a fault line here in Canada. This is a weak spot. Is our economy right now. And so he's basically Trump didn't create the Jenga tower that's wobbly as shit. He might give it a little nudge, but he's not to blame for creating that tower in the first place, for creating this structural weakness in our economy.
No, 100%. And Merry Christmas to the people in the comment section. Merry Christmas to the listeners. This is our last show before Christmas, so Merry Christmas to all of you.
Yes, absolutely. Merry Christmas, guys.
So Trevor is saying we don't produce anything but laws. No one is investing and all businesses are leaving. I'm surprised we still have a dollar. Yeah, well, the dollar is not doing very well, Trevor. I think I don't need to tell you that, but this is it's not looking good for our economy. I'm happy that the clients I deal with are Americans and they pay me in American dollars. I'm just saying. So if you're capable of doing that, that's definitely the way to go. But Canada's not doing very well when it comes to our dollars. That's for damn sure. And before I take some more comments, because we can take some comments until 8:30, because we do have a guest at 8:30. I don't know if you guys remember, but we do have the columnist from the National Post. We have columnist and reporter Tristin Hopper joining us in 7 minutes to speak about a very interesting article that he released yesterday. You're going to love it. But it shows where your money is going as a taxpayer of Canada. and which activist group you're actually funding, which it's absolutely insane that this is acceptable, that this is totally normal. But that is why Tristin Hopper is joining us to speak about his article, and that's like 7 minutes from now. So until then, I just want to say that agreed. The sponsor, the official sponsor of the Political Orphans is, of course, Gabble, the world's first live video debate app on the market. I was on there debating a leftist earlier. It was actually interesting. We agree. You know, it reminded me of what we do here. We agree a lot that there's a problem, but we disagree on the solution. And we went 3 5-minute rounds.
Right?
Yeah, that was at 6 today. It was, I lost as per the judges and the voters, I lost every single one of them. But that's how I am, right? It's a more leftist platform, so I expect it.
Sure.
It's ran by two 23, 24-year-old university graduate from Columbia University. So I know this. But the fact that it was like 70-30 is about what I was expecting, right? I shouldn't have lost those debates, but at the same time, it was okay because it was respectful. It was fun. I had fun. And we were texting. We have a WhatsApp group afterwards, and we're like, man, we need to do this again. 5 minutes, not long enough. But all to say, guys, it's interesting. Gabble's all about civil discourse, and then I got to argue, to debate with people, and they made a very fucking good point. It's the first time I concede in a debate, and I've debated on some of the biggest platform in North America. I conceded a debate in the middle. I'm like, bro, you win. You're absolutely right. I never thought about this. It's yours.
What was the point?
So the question was, should people say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays? And I had debated that guy before on the app, and he's just, oh, it's you. Well, I know where you're going with this. And I have my cross in the background. I'm like, of course, I say Merry Christmas, but at the end of the day, I don't really give a fuck. If it hurts your feelings, if it bothers somebody that I say Merry Christmas, I don't care. I will continue to say it. I don't care. I don't care. You can say Happy Holidays, but at the end of the day, man, it's Merry Christmas. And the guy's like, he's Jewish, and he's like, I'm always happy when people tell me Happy Hanukkah. I'm always surprised. But here's the reality. Happy Holidays doesn't make anybody happy. Nobody that receives a happy holiday greeting is actually moved by it. But people that care about Merry Christmas, if you tell them Merry Christmas, they will be happy to hear it. So it moves the needle. Happy Holidays is never net zero, is never net positive, but Merry Christmas is. And that's coming from a Jewish guy. I'm like, bro, you win. I don't have anything. I've never thought about it this way. And I was at the SAQ, the alcohol, the equivalent at the LCBO today to grab some alcohol for tomorrow. And I said Merry Christmas to everybody, the 3 people that were there, and they all said Happy Holidays. And in my heart, as much as I don't care, it still bothers me because it's not Happy Holidays. It's Merry Christmas. Actually, it should be Happy Baby Jesus birthday. That's what it should be. But he made a good point, though. That Merry Christmas to the people that care, it will move the needle. Happy Holiday never makes anybody happy.
Never does. We
just say that to be politically correct, but it doesn't move the needle at all, but Merry Christmas does. So I conceded. I'm like, bro, you win. I have no comeback for that. You're absolutely right. You win. Good for you. You win.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, people can say whatever. It doesn't bother me when someone says Happy Holidays. I don't give a shit. What bothers me is when someone tells me I can't say Merry Christmas or tries to enforce their personal preferences on the rest of us. And I'm not a Christian. To me, Christmas is not a religious holiday. I mean, obviously it is. But I think it's more moved towards a cultural holiday. Pretty much everyone that I don't know anybody who does not celebrate Christmas to some extent. So I just see it as part of our culture, part of our history, part of our heritage, really. And for someone to come and say, you can't say that anymore, that just really pisses me off because they would not fucking dare say that to a Muslim, that you can't say Happy Ramadan, right? So and they wouldn't dare. So I just fundamentally reject the double standards, and we see that all across the board on so many issues. There's one standard for, what's traditional in the West or Christianity, and one standard for everyone else, or Muslims or what have you.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's exactly my point. You can tell me happy holidays all you want. I will always tell you Merry Christmas. I don't care who you are, where you're from. It's Merry Christmas to me. And if that bothers you, well, you can go fuck yourself. That is all I have to say about that.
Merry Christmas,
Tristin.
Go fuck yourself.
Merry Christmas. If not, go fuck yourself. Tristin, we can see you in the back room. Are you ready to go? Thumbs up, ready to go? No, I'll just introduce you. Awesome. So, guys, we are joined by National Post columnist and reporter Tristin Hopper. He's joining us to speak about his new article, The Mammoth Quantity of Activism Fueled by Taxpayers' Money, Gender Identity, Climate Change, and Anti-Israel Causes, all generously subsidized by federal money, meaning your and my money. Tristin, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Merry Christmas. Let's start right there. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, which I would have said anyway. I don't want to be told to fuck myself.
Exactly right.
You're going to fit right in, Tristin. You're going to fit right in. So as you can see, there's no censorship here. You can say whatever you want, and you can say it however you want. But this article that you published yesterday is quite interesting because we don't see that from mainstream media. Obviously, they're not talking about this because to them it's all normal. But I want you to address what you spoke about in there, because there's a few trans activist groups in there. There's a few Palestinian groups in there. There's a few Muslim groups in there that are being heavily subsidized by Canada. So explain to us what you found and what you actually think about it.
Sure. You've got a whole archipelago of grants handed out by the federal government. So this has sort of been in place for quite some time. It was massively expanded under Justin Trudeau. So you had whole new categories of grants. I think in 2021, as part of a whole anti-racism rollout, there was a new sort of anti-racism grant program. There's, gender equity grant programs. There's community grant programs. So there's all of these sort of grant programs. Most people don't know they exist. And they're also insulated in the last federal budget. I think a lot of people think a lot of the woke stuff ended under Trudeau, and Carney's kind of put a stop to it just because he never says it. He doesn't really talk all that woke in public, but all of the infrastructure is still going. And actually, in the last federal budget, most federal departments were given a target of between 10 and 15% to cut. Grant programs were very explicitly shielded from this, with the reasoning being, this is important work. So academic grants in whatsoever. So there's a whole variety of ways in which, if you're running a nonprofit, even a nonprofit that is very political, there's any number of ways to beef up your budget or have your budget almost monopolized by government funding. And this ranges from, you could have an organization that was independent and is slowly just Egal Canada is sort of it calls itself the leading LGBTQ whatever charity in Canada. So this was started organically, and then over the years, it's gotten to the point where 70% of its funding is provided through a variety of grants. And then you also have the other side of the spectrum is the Canadian Climate Institute. This was very explicitly founded by the government to be a quote unquote independent body. So they just passed a special $30 million grant through Environment and Climate Change Canada to create this. And now you'll see them quoted in invited to committee meetings. You'll see Mark Carney mention the Canadian Climate Institute as sort of an independent researcher in the House of Commons. But if you ask them, they'll say, well, we are independent. We're not liberal stooges here. But you are a creation of the Liberal Party using government money to serve liberal ends. So it's something I've noticed. I didn't have a lot of time to write this story. So if you really had a researcher with unlimited time, you could really probe into how much money is heading into all these causes because there's very little oversight. I mean, we've reported on some edge cases just at the National Post over the last few months. So just absolutely insane projects that are very generously funded by government. So those are illustrative of the fact that if something that crazy can slip in. So Toronto Palestinian Families being one example. It was written about by my colleague Terry Newman. And this was a nonprofit in Toronto. And they got a grant for anti-Semitism education. So it was some programmers like anti-Semitism and anti-Islamophobia, but they are an openly anti-Zionist organization whose social media includes reposts of the Palestinian youth movement. That's one of the radical groups that openly celebrated October 7th. While the attack was still going on in Israel, these were the people handing out candy, dropping banners, screaming Free Palestine. So they've been very open about their pro-terror sympathies from the beginning. So we can highlight something like that. And if if you're an openly anti-Zionist group and you're like, can I have some anti-Semitism funding? And they're like, oh yeah, here's 6 figures, no strings attached. It's obviously very easy. So EGAL is sort of the example of, they're very much dependent on government. And so when you're looking at EGAL taking openly political stances right now, they're suing Danielle Smith in Alberta. You look at their sort of press releases on their webpage. This is very much a political organization, taking stances, suing for new legislation, defending the frontiers of gender identity is what I said. They're probably the most active group when you're trying to dial back, no more men in the women's change rooms. EGAL is going to be suing you, and they're suing you primarily with federal money. With your money, with our money. Basically, yeah. If you're it's nice of you to assume I'm a taxpayer, and I am. Yeah. so
here's EGAL.
You go ahead.
Just for some context here, this is EGAL Canada's Instagram, and you can see that it's all about LGBTQ. I call it propaganda, so LGBTQ propaganda. EGAL is Canada's leading organization for the alphabet people and issues. We improve and save lives through research, education, awareness, and legal advocacy, and government funding. If they were honest, they would have to add and government funding at the end of that. But
and you mentioned mainstream media. I mean, maybe one of the reasons mainstream media is, and I even thought about this writing it, because you'll find an organization like National Council of Canadian Muslims and the Muslim Association of Canada. Both of them have their funding, according to Charity Intelligence or Canada, their funding's around 10 to 15%. And there's a variety of ways you can get that. The Summer Jobs Program is one. You apply for summer jobs and you have the government basically pays the wages of people to work summer jobs at your organization. So this is an easy way to just get free student labor over the summer. So that's sort of an easy backdoor subsidy. A lot of nonprofits do that. But as I was writing this, I was going to mention, well, they've got 10, 15%. And someone could just turn around and say, well, you work for the mainstream media. You get the Trudeau newspaper money, which is true. You've got the subsidy for basically anyone working in mainstream media. There is the Trudeau government subsidy. So it's an example. As I'm talking to you now, a portion of this goes back to the taxpayer just because I'm a paid employee of Post Media. So when you really probe these things, it is quite shocking how often there'll be, a blockade, a protest, an activist lawsuit, and you're only 1 or 2 steps away from a federal check being cut.
That's so that's wild to see the curtain pulled back on this, Tristin. So I was reading your article and I it was pretty hard not to notice that pretty much all the causes of these these groups, these NGOs, we're talking Free Palestine stuff, we're talking trans stuff, we're talking immigrant,
those are the ones I highlighted. So you can actually search these grants yourself. So if you're trying to get away from the family, search the grant database. It's hyperlinked in the story, and you can just pick any hyperlink you want. So I'm confident if someone, although you're right, I assume you're going to say that left-wing causes basically get a government check, but you're not going to find.
That's exactly what
name your right-wing group.
What's the ratio?
Canadian Taxpayers
What's the
Federation,
percentage?
Fraser Institute. They're not getting the government cheese. which I think is
like
fair.
Pro gun rights groups are not getting government checks. Anti-abortion groups are not getting government checks.
They might have applied, but even actually, I mentioned the summer jobs program. If you remember, one of the earlier scandals of the Trudeau government was that he was kicking out organizations, even if they didn't do anything related to abortion, if they just didn't like abortion in principle. So that's sort of basically any Christian group, unless you're the United Church. They were barred from access to the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Wow. So you had this sort of purge of anyone with, and I think they've done similar purges for any organization with sort of a peripheral connection to firearms rights. Don't quote me on that, but I imagine if you're a wildlife federation and you're looking for Canada Summer Jobs Program, you'd just be cited as, gun nuts. And maybe there's exceptions to that. The grants are searchable. But there definitely is a pattern. I mean, across all grantings, this was just sort of granting to community organizations. I also do, I've written stories about academic grants, the money that gets paid out for Canada Research Chairs. And you can just do a scrolling list of what is getting funding. And it's not even left-wing. It's like radically left-wing, where you imagine, I don't know how much Mark Carney is aware of this, but I can't imagine anybody over the age of 60 could read through this list and be like, oh, this is good research that we're looking into how, trans identities, inform the phases of the moon.
Yeah.
But this is...
go ahead, Nico.
All I was going to say is, because as you're talking, I've researched through that database before. There's hundreds of grants in there, so you kind of know what you're looking for. But here's a thing I found interesting is that if you go to the grant funding right now to canada.ca, you can find this. It's going to help you find grants, right? And if you go through it, there's nothing much about religion in there, as you can see, right? But here's what's interesting, because Blacklock Reporter came up with this last week. They were saying that our cabinet advisor, Admira El-Wabi, secretly paid $80,000 for pro-Palestine research to counter alleged disinformation by MPs, senators, and media. And what is one of the places you can get money for is research. So this is what's very interesting, is that they're not stupid. They know how to hide the grants. It doesn't say, oh, here's a pro-Muslim organization. No, they're going to be part of research. They're going to be part of, like you said, jobs. If you're looking for jobs during the summer, for example, you can get that.
Yeah, but if you know anybody in the nonprofit space, they sort of know how to navigate these things. So you start a nonprofit, and anyone will say, okay, well, apply for this grant, apply for this grant. I mean, you'll see it in, this is not a nonprofit, but any master's student, they're immediately told by their professor, apply for a shirt grant. Your PhD is about, trans identities of cats or whatever. Apply for a shirt grant, you almost certainly get it. That's just an instant $20,000-$30,000. You're a professional grad student now. I guess this has always sort of existed. Going all the way back to the 1980s, there's Canada Media Funds you can sort of semi-scam, but just the range of those grants has really expanded, and a lot of them are now subject. This really kicked off starting in about 2019. A lot of them are now subject to sort of equity guidelines. So before, you would have sort of a granting program. And they're like, this is for research, or this is for, community organization. But now you actually have often you have the federal government saying, well, now these have to serve the cause of equity. And you even see this at independent nonprofits. So I wrote about the Vancouver Foundation. This is a granting agency, goes back to 1943. But they sort of rewrote where they send funding. It used to just be community causes, charities, food banks, and then in the moral panic around anti-racism, they said, well, now it's going to be equity. So you start having money going to decolonial causes, anti-racism causes. And you'll even I wrote a story about grant funding for foreign aid. And one pattern I started to notice is they also put those top down, this has to be towards equity, this has to be towards gender equity, this has to be for decolonialization. So I was reading through the grants, and I noticed there was grants for just a normal Canadian aid project. So we're going to go over to someplace in Africa, and we're going to dig these wells, and we're going to teach some school children. But they couldn't say that because apparently they wouldn't get the grant funding. So you'd be reading through and it's like, we're going to do gender equity, access to water and food security. Like it would be worded with all these boilerplate, and you read through the
while
lines.
we're doing that,
say,
we'll
just
teach them some math too. While we do some gender, we'll throw in some math there too, or maybe some writing. But it's the gender stuff, really.
Yeah,
they almost have to launder it through that stuff.
There's very specific quotas. I mean, the Canada Research Chair program. So this is a huge sorts of academic funding. So this is effectively the government pays you to have a full-time researcher, a Canada Research Chair. So they pay for their office, they pay their salaries. So you have a Canada Research Chair at your university, courtesy of the government of Canada, and they. I think it was driven by a Supreme Court decision, but now this is actually subject to explicit racial quotas. And you see this on the Canada Research Chair, where a certain percentage have to be disabled, a certain percentage have to be Black or Indigenous. That's why you've started noticing a trend now of universities mentioning race in their job postings, saying this position is only open to Black or Indigenous people or disabled people. It's because they thought they could meet the quotas organically, but if you're getting to the next point where you have to apply for government funding and you don't have the requisite percentage of Black people teaching computer science, you have to put out a job posting. Only Black people can apply for this next computer science posting. So a version of that has happened a lot across a lot of these granting agencies. So they have to give a minimum quantity of these grants to so-called equity initiatives or gender equity initiatives. So under those guidelines, a lot of really crappy projects can sort of slide in so someone can meet their decolonization quotas or whatever.
I wanted to show something else here because I just find it very, very ironic. But if you look right here, there's a section that is gender equality under the grant funding on Canada.ca. And then once you select that, it's all about gender-based violence, alphabet letters, and the advancing women and gender equality. Funny how there's nothing about men's mental health in there, right?
No, you're definitely not going to find that. You're not even going to find a lot of women's health. I mean, I did find an example of two of the biggest grants given to the National Council of Canadian Muslims. $500,000. They got two big tranches of $500,000 funding in recent years. One of them was from Women and Gender Equality, and the program was, and I don't know how much inspection there is of what they're doing, but this was the National Council of Canadian Muslims says we need $500,000. We're going to do, women's health as a reaction. This is a real program. I think I linked to it in the story. They were given $500,000 to help with women's health and sort of self-esteem in the wake of the Quebec sort of anti-hijab ban. So we don't know what that entails. But it's essentially $500,000 to the National Council of Canadian Muslims from Women and Gender Equality. So you would have a minister at some point saying, well, we're giving out $50 million of gender equality, but look into the details. $500,000 of that, at least, went to some program in Quebec to help people feel better about not being able to wear hijabs at work.
Is there any accountability? Is there any follow-up to these things, or is it possible these are just pure money laundering fronts?
I don't know. I mean, if I looked into this deeper, I could sort of find, what the inspections are. A theme I often find in Canadian government is the screening is much less. I mean, I've often found this in immigration. So you're like, well, they must be screening people when they just, come off a plane and claim asylum.
No, we covered that on
some sort of screening, and then I've even been surprised when you had House of Commons committee testimony from, I think it was the head of the union representing CBSA members, and he said, "Oh yeah, most asylum seekers, it's just you go onto a computer and sort of check through that you're applying for asylum." So the amount of screening was less than even I, in my cynical way, interpreted. It's
not even computer, by the way. It's cell phone. It's an app that you can download. I was trying to download it, but you need to be given access to the app through CBSA, but it is an app that you can download on your phone. Because I was going to download it, call them, help me, answer questions, and I would have recorded it and put it here.
Ooh,
That's
that's
probably why they don't.
I keep pitching this idea to other media organizations. I'm like, we're too respectable at the National Post. We can't do that. But some of you should apply for some insane grants. Like I need $500,000, something with cats. I need to, drag queen story hour for cats.
For cats,
by cats. And then when you get the money, you can donate it back to the federal treasury or whatever. But then you go public with how easy it was to secure an insane grant. But everyone I propose this to, they're like, they think they're going to be written up for fraud. I don't know if that's true.
Let me ask you a question, because we do record all of our shows live and we get a lot of comments. And one of the comments that we got is about funding for mainstream media or for media. So do you, I'll read the comment. Sheridan is saying, Tristin, you work for a company that is taxpayer funded. You can't see the hypocrisy in what you're saying. Why your company deserves taxpayers' money. So I'd like you to address that, but I also want to see, I did a quick search here.
I don't think we should take the taxpayer money. I've hated this idea since the beginning. And I thought by this time, we were going to have a conservative government. We'd be stripped of the taxpayer funding. The conservatives did promise to do that. So he's absolutely right. Yeah. Post Media is on the government dole. I forget the exact amount that they're bringing in. But
I can tell you, $85,000 per eligible newspaper employee, $4.27 million through the Online News Act fund. That is through the Google payments. So that's the bill that Justin Trudeau passed. And you received from 2025 to 2026 fiscal year through the Canada Periodical Fund, you received about $954,000. So you're looking at about just over $5 million.
This is for the National Post?
No, it's for Post Media Network, which owns the National Post.
Yeah, so that's Calgary Herald and others, but it's a substantial quantity of money. I'm not going to pull the CBC and say like, if that's like a nickel per person. So he's right. It gives me no pride in saying that. But I guess I'm not a hypocrite if I say it's a dumb idea and I don't deserve taxpayer money. Does that work?
I will let Sheridan answer that one. He'll probably answer back, so I'll tell you what he says.
I feel like if they're going to give you the money and you're on the record as saying this is stupid, but I'll take it. I feel like you're not checking the hypocrite box, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. It's not like I'm personally taking it, but I hated this policy when it was brought in. I hate that it exists now. I think it's when it was being brought in, I was thinking, well, number one, there's two bad things about it. Number one, you entrench uncompetitive industries. So you were taking a lot of the National Post. The reason I think we're a much better paper than the Globe and Mail and Toronto Star is because we've been on the verge of bankruptcy for 20 years. I mean, we were on the verge of bankruptcy before it was cool for other media organizations. And because of that, we've been more adaptive. We don't have the bloat that you have at the Globe and Mail, Toronto Star. We have younger staff. We have innovative ways of going about things. We were the first to sort of dial down our physical presence, move to at home, because that just saves us on overhead. By putting in subsidies to all these organizations, you're essentially stopping them from making those types of innovations and just continuing to go with an unsustainable business model, which is good for the independent guys like you, because the longer they have their head up their asses, the more people are going to be searching for independent media. So I hate it for that, just as a principal reason. Any subsidy is going to entrench uncompetitive business practices. And number two, I think it has demolished media credibility. And it's weird to me that the higher ups didn't see this coming. That when I just think of how easy it is to dismiss so much of what is reported by the CBC and always has been, because they depend on government for their funding, to voluntarily say, we're going to take all of the other media and open ourselves up to the same criticism. Well, you're funded by government, you're protecting them, you have a dog in this fight, and that's informing how you report on politics. So for that reason alone, I think it was bad to go about this.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because basically, because if you're taking money as well, it applies to you too, not to the extent of the CBC, not that $1.4 billion they're getting every year. But wouldn't you say, because Sheridan actually answered you, and I'm going to read his comment again.
Wow,
then why haven't you? But I'm asking the question. At the end of the day, you choose to answer them or not. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but that's what we do, right? We do this live because we like the comments, agree with them, disagree with them. I want to take them. So why haven't you why haven't you left your job? Where's your integrity on your beliefs? That's the answer.
Gives me something to think about. I thought by this point we were going to we were going to lose a subsidy, and I thought, well, if I saw that on the horizon, and I thought, well, if this, I didn't even think if they have to fire me because they don't have the payroll because this subsidy was sort of providing it, that's fine with me. I'm not going to alter the way I report. But as I say that, I sound like a CBCer. So I don't know. What would you say?
I don't. There's a good reason why.
If you're in an industry that's because at a certain point, I mean, if you're in an industry that there's some sort of hanky-panky practices from the higher ups, be that subsidies, be that you're a dairy farmer and you profit from a cartel that forces people to raise the price of milk. At a certain point, maybe you're right. I should have, on principle, it's true, because you do have organizations like the Hub, like the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, who can essentially argue we're not taking the government cheese, so you can trust us more. So why haven't I quit over that? I like working for the National Post, and I guess that's just a compromise I've had to make.
You probably like to pay rent and eat food as well. I
would tell them if I would tell them stop taking the subsidy, and if that means you have to pay me less or fire me, I wouldn't complain about it. But that's a hypothetical. That's probably not going to be satisfying for your questioner.
I mean, to the point you make, the credibility issue. You're absolutely right. It kind of baffling when you're on this side. Like, you understand why CBC takes the government money. They're dead without it, right? They take 1.5 billion, as you said. 984,000. It's decent money, but for the loss of the credibility, it really doesn't seem like that much. Like, what were they thinking?
Oh, no. Hold on. It's not 950,000. It's 950,000 under the Canadian paradox through one of the subsidies. There's two more. They're getting 427 million. I told you earlier. So if you paid attention, it was about $5.2 million a year plus $85,000 up to $85,000 per eligible newsroom employee salary. So I would imagine you probably count as that. So it could be substantial amount of money. At the end of the day, I'm not disagreeing. I see where you guys are coming from. I understand where you're coming from, Tristin. But, I'm a sales engineer by trade, and I lost an extremely well-paying job because I refused the vaccine. So at the end of the day, we all have our morals, and I was part of the 9% that literally lost everything over this. And I don't regret it. I do what I do today because they put me in that situation. The government created me. It's not something I wanted.
Compare it to, this is something I encounter often. Someone who works in the public sector, they have to be part of the union, and the union is essentially full of communists screaming for free Palestine. So you're like, well, and you could ask them, well, you're paying your dues to this evil Free Palestine organization, but at the end of the day, they want to be a school teacher, and there's nothing they can do. Yes, perhaps the argument is I should have gone into independent media, and if it helps, I was here making money for Post Media before they decided to hook themselves to the government train. And I guess I'm at the point now where it's sort of equal time that I've been with Post Media prior to the subsidy and before the subsidy. But I did see one of your listeners asking if management interferes.
You're reading my mind. Let me read that one too, because that is we have time for one more question, so that's what I was going to ask. I think this is this one from Pam. Are there stories Tristan can't report on because he was told I wouldn't it would affect your government money?
No, that's never. And actually, this is an accusation we're receiving more from the left, particularly from liberals. They'll point out, well, Postmedia is owned by an American hedge fund, so you answer to Trump interests, so we don't have to listen to you. So, for years, I think justifiably so, said, well, you're just pretending the government so you can get your government paycheck. And then now from the other side, you're just doing what the hedge fund managers say. I think you could look at my body of work, and there's very little intervention. There's less intervention here than I felt at any other media organization I've ever worked for. And I think I can plausibly argue that I don't report as someone who is trying to defend the Liberal government so that it can continue paying its subsidy to Postmedia. I think the reporting would look quite a lot different if that was the case.
So
I think the question you were referring to was this one. My apologies. Yeah. You can go ahead afterwards, Rob. I think was the question from Claire. Does management interfere with Mr. Hopper's work? So the question was pretty much the same, from very similar. Yeah. So thanks for answering it, Rob. All you.
So just to follow up,
of course, you have to take my word for it. If if they were, maybe
you could be lying. And in fact,
just interfering,
if they you probably would. So that sounds like something that
is exactly what you would say if they were.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, to the question which specifically said, does management tell you that you can't report on a story? Obviously, I see no reason not to take your word for it. I think most of us.
I can tell you what it looks like.
But has it felt different?
Sorry, go on.
Has it felt different? Because you've had a before and after, right? Like, have you noticed maybe subtle differences that are not overtly telling you can't report on this, but maybe just focus has been shifted?
Yes, the only thing would have been when they were pushing this. When they were pushing this particular, I think it was whatever the media subsidy. No, it wasn't the media subsidy. It was that pain in the ass online news act. And this was, I was writing about it. I was writing something critical about it. And I was told, well, don't include it just because there's a conflict of interest here, because our higher ups are pushing for this online news act. So that's the only sort of example I can point to. In which at the time they're like, well, our CEO is pushing for this, so we're just not going to report on it whatsoever. So I didn't feel great about that. I'm happy independent media was there to sort of shine a light on that. But in terms of pressure of, there's certain places we don't go, we don't touch this, we don't criticize that person. This is something I legitimately do not feel. Much less than you would assume.
427. That's 4,000,027 is what you guys receive yearly on the Online News Act fund. 4.27 million. Yep. Tristan, we're running out of time, but I want to thank you for accepting my invitation. I want to apologize for last week. I kind of fucked up and I had you on the show and I had to cancel last minute. Completely forgot to tell you. So I appreciate you showing up again. Or showing up for the first time, but trusting that we would be here this time. So thank you for being here. Thank you for writing that article. Thank you for taking questions, because we take a lot of questions of people that agree, disagree with what we say. That's the whole point of civil discourse. So thanks for doing what you do. And next time you have a good article, I'll reach out to, because we always have friends of the show, as we call it. Like, we have a lot of people that keep on coming back because they're covering something different. Yeah. So if you're interested, I'll reach out again. But thanks for your time and Merry fucking Christmas.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the critical questions. I'm not.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun.
These podcasts.
Appreciate
that was great.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. Bye. So there you have it, Tristin Hopper from. Yeah, I like these questions. I think you guys know me better. I will take those questions on purpose because I want people to answer them. If it's live, we get hammered all the time, so it's part of the deal. So Sheridan, thank you for the question. Pam, thank you for the question. Well, everybody, thank you for the question. Sorry we couldn't take more, but I think it was a good answer. I wonder if he's gonna think about it, like he said, because if he does, that's interesting. Let me think about this one.
if it comes on the news, Tristin Hopper resigned. I mean, I get the, like, I personally, I get it. I don't begrudge someone personally. I think for me, the moral line would be if he's been told to run a story or not run a story, or do, like, if it directly impacts his work, then I think you have the moral requirement to resign, and just professional ethics wise.
As a journalist.
But yeah, no, yes,
as a
absolutely.
journalist,
it was a solid
right?
question. Yeah, it was a solid question. He answered it well. I mean, he didn't try to make excuses. Just like, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
But I don't think he was expecting that question. I agree with Trevor on that one. I think he did not see that one coming. But that was
yeah.
That was good.
It was
that was good.
Yeah, it was fair. It was fair play. Yeah, no,
always is, man.
Yeah. He it was fun. It was a fun interview. I love, especially if he we should definitely keep tabs on him. And then you can reach out anytime.
Oh yeah. I look at the National Post every day.
Story that's worth. Yep. And like you said,
what do you guys think?
Have to trust him. Like, yeah.
What do you guys think in the comments? What do you guys think, our listeners? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Should we have him back again? Because at the end of the day, we do this for you. So if you want to have him back, we'll have him back. If not. But I enjoyed the question. And yes, Trevor, I think the poor guy was sweating a bit.
It was sweating a little bit.
Good. Boom.
Yeah. Damn it. Yeah, tough crowd.
That's part of doing it live, man. That is part of doing it live. But yeah, I think we're pretty much done for today. So I'm gonna finish by saying this. You can finish after, but Merry Christmas to all the people out there, and hopefully you guys let me know in the comments if you want to have him back, if I should keep tabs on him, like Rob is saying, because if you guys want him back, we shall have him back.
Yeah, I think, and I do think, despite the tough questions, I think the broad consensus was that he was a worthwhile guest. But yeah, no, as you said, Merry Christmas, guys. We are going to take a 2-day break. We'll be back here on, what will that be? Will that be Thursday now?
No, you're taking a 4-day break. You are back on Sunday. Right. You're back on. Right. We're back on Sunday for the Political Orphans. Just that we do have a mashup, a Saturday night mashup at 9. Yep, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Remigration. This is going to be a very interesting conversation because we got some of the founders of the organizations that are talking about this. So they will be joining us on Saturday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And our mashups are. This one's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this one, but yeah, we're going to be back on Sunday, the Political Orphans.
Yep. Yes. That should be that remigration conversation should be an interesting one. Trevor says, Merry Christmas, everyone. Nico, you forgot Gabble. No, we did the sponsorship spiel just before Tristan.
At least people are listening. But yes, I did do it. But Gabble was mentioned. But at least you guys are paying attention when I talk about it. So thank you.
That's right, guys. All right, folks. Have an excellent Christmas break. We'll catch you in a couple of days. We have the remigration mashup on Saturday. Political Orphans back on Sunday at our regularly scheduled time. And other than that, enjoy your time with your family and friends. Be safe. And we'll catch you in a couple of days. Merry Christmas, folks.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas, guys.